you're looking a little low in terms
A
of
little
just
low.
camera position. I feel a little bit
Yeah. So
above you.
it is a bit weird. I thought you might like having a new,
No,
view.
I'm excited. I just feel like I feel like I like addressing a child is the only thing. Like it
Oh,
it
right,
almost
yeah.
looks like a preschooler class, and everyone's sitting there, and I'm half expecting your legs to sort of be dangling on the chair a little bit.
Well, it's not too far from the truth, really, is it?
Or maybe not.
How are you? It's a Sunday morning, hey?
Sunday morning. This is
As Maroon 5 said, Sunday morning, rain is falling.
Oh, and I love the way they didn't rhyme those two words when there are plenty of ways that they could have. Um,
Yeah.
I think when you check the encyclopedia of podcasting, one of the first things they tell you is go for a Sunday morning record because that's really when everyone's feeling fresh, when everyone's got those great ideas percolating, when you've got that excitement. Get in there early on the Lord's Day and get your pods done.
Yes, the Lord's Day indeed. Yeah, shout out to God
Shout
while
out
we're
to
here.
God, who we, obviously acknowledge
Big
as being
listener.
one of the four. Yeah, big
Big
listener.
listener of the
Big
show.
listener.
Listens to everything.
That's what I was going to say.
Literally all the time in the same timeline.
Yeah, yeah. And unfortunately, though, not a great fan because I feel like he listens to every podcast, and it's
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Do you really want someone who's not like a diehard, but who's sort of like hedging bets, listening to other shows, and not really an
Yeah.
exclusive fan? I'd much prefer to have someone who's, invested.
You know what? That's not a bad point about God. And this is one of my myths. God is a,
Michael Smith, should we play the music?
a omnipotent myth.
Yeah.
That, with God, everyone's special, but really no one's special if you think
Yeah.
about it. Because he
Yeah.
loves everyone all the same. He loves murderers, rapists, pedophiles,
Yeah.
bankers,
Bankers, the big
he,
four.
and uh, and he also loves you. So it doesn't really
Yeah.
hold a lot of weight.
Yeah. It's kind of like when you discover that, like, a Republican Trump fan is also like a Star Wars fan. And you're like,
Yeah,
oh, well,
that's ours.
that kind of colors Star Wars for me a bit. Like, I didn't realize we had this commonality, and now I feel a little bit lesser for knowing that we share something.
Yes, well, famously, Trump is a big Radiohead fan, which
Huge, which has been an issue for us.
annoying, and he loves Kid A. It's his favorite album.
Yeah, which is correct, but it's like, oh,
Yeah.
the worst person I know said something I agree with. Yeah,
Just back to Maroon 5, if I may, Nick.
please.
Just had a thought about that. Maroon 5, people like Maroon 5 and Justin Bieber's and even Post Malone's to some degree. These guys, I don't know if you've seen them, but they've got like fucking face tattoos. They've
Yeah.
got like, they're covered in tattoos and they make the pussiest music, dude.
Michael, you can't say
What is this?
pussiest.
Sorry, I was going to say gayest, but then I was like, oh,
Please say gayest
say
next
that.
time, okay?
lamest. Like, it's just
Lamest.
soft. It's just like soft, nothing tissue
There is.
music.
I see what you're getting at. Absolutely, like the contrast between, 30 years ago or whatever, like post punk. There's all these people who are like
Yeah.
hardcore music with a hardcore aesthetic, and it's because the look and the music are in keeping with like a cultural movement, right? Like they're all
Right.
outlets of the same agenda or personality or goal or whatever. But you're right now, I wouldn't say co-opted necessarily, but they're certainly not in agreement with each other. That sort of brand of like pop friendly top 20, like radio friendly
Exactly.
top 20 pop, versus like an incredibly tatted up like face tattoo kind of
Yeah.
white
Like,
rap star or whatever.
exactly. Like, if you look at a guy like Adam Levine, is that Adam Levine or is that the
Yeah.
comedian? That's Adam Devine. No, Adam Levine.
Divine. Yeah.
You look
Divine
at
and
him.
Levine. Yeah.
You look at him on the surface and you think, no way that guy's listening to Maroon 5.
Yeah.
But he wrote Maroon 5.
Yeah. Which is worse.
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. If you were to be characterized as a musician based on your look, what genre do you think you fall into?
Oh. Um, I think it's pretty accurate. I think I.
Okay, you get saxophonist from you.
Oh, you mean what I play
Well,
or what I
it's sort
listen
of
to?
yeah, no, not what you listen to. If you were in a band, what kind of music would your aesthetic suggest that you make?
Right. I think future jazz,
Yeah,
future post retro jazz.
yeah, future post retro jazz.
Yeah.
I mean,
PFRJ.
yeah, the aesthetic for me is actually kind of close to where I expect you to end up,
Yeah.
which is like sort of alt synthy kind of vibes, you know?
It's very hard to divorce what I know versus your look. So I'm incredibly biased when I'm thinking this, but I would
No,
say
I
like
think that it does align.
Sufjan, Andrew Bird kind of shit would be you.
Oh, really? Yeah, that's
Or maybe a
tough.
bit shoegaze. Maybe a bit
Yeah, I
shoegazy.
can see that. I just
Like
thinking about the
nerd pop
whitest
kind of.
nerd pop kind of
No,
guys.
no,
Yeah.
sorry, nerd rock,
Yeah.
dude.
Like I like. Do you think I could be in Weezer?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. You'd have
Or
to
in
wear a few
OK
more
Go.
button downs.
I could be an OK Go or in Weezer.
Not with that body. I
Well,
think
I'll
you're
take
getting
that
a little
compliment
bit too. You're getting a little bit too beefy. I think.
Okay. Who is
You're
the
more-
who are the beefiest? What is the genre for the like muscle hunks?
It's. I know what it is. It's 9 Inch Nails.
Oh,
Yeah, Trent
interesting.
Reznor.
Is
They're
he
like
jacked?
the muscle tee. Yeah, he's
Really?
pretty jacked. Yeah.
but isn't there like something? I think like if you get into a punk area or into like a metal, like you often see
Yeah.
like you think of those drummers who are just like absolutely thrashing it, where it's like an
Yes.
endurance sport, right? Which I'm not suggesting
Yes.
that I would fit in, but I'm just trying to think of like the most athletic musicians are probably in those kind of genres, right?
Yes, actually, now this is there's so much material here to mine,
Yeah.
Nick. You know, I think on some level I have adopted a style choice these days, which is a black kind of t-shirt tucked into black pants with Doc Martens. That's what I wear out. And I
Yeah.
know that on some level I've got that look from J.K. Simmons in Whiplash.
Okay. J.K.
Which
Simmons.
I remember when I saw
enormous.
Whiplash.
Enormous.
He is so fucking muscly.
He's like nearly 70
years old.
Yeah.
Crazy. He looks fantastic. But I remember when I saw Whiplash in the cinema, and I was like, that
Style icon.
is
Yeah.
a great look.
Yeah.
And I want it. Like almost like a security guard, but not. It's
Yeah.
it's like
Yeah.
he's got a blazer
Yeah.
hanging up in the cloakroom.
Did you see Babylon?
Yeah, I did actually,
I
unfortunately.
never saw it. What did you think? Was it?
It was like a 4-hour wank fest.
Yeah.
Didn't love it.
Yeah. I heard mixed things. I was just curious.
Oh, there's nothing there?
No, it was just Whiplash, Damien Chazelle, Babylon.
Yes, 4 hours.
Yeah.
I mean, Chazelle's great, but no.
Yeah. Okay.
2 episodes hours.
Welcome to Deep Thought, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us here on a podcast in which we discuss, I guess, what look you might need to be if you want to be a musician. I don't know. This is one of those things we find out on the way. Seeing through the internet with me this week, my friend Michael. Hello.
Hello.
And my name's Nick. Hi. Thank you so much for being here. Now, if there is a little bit of a timbre to my voice, if there is a little bit of a stutter, or if my edits this week seem a little bit out of sorts, it's probably because I'm hiding a cough. I've got a little bit of a chesty thing that's just been lingering in a sort of irritating way. So I'm gonna lean into my ASMR, and I'm not gonna speak as much this week.
Great.
Michael, you've said for years you want the spotlight. Well, here it comes.
Quick shout out to my friend, Elle, who I'm not sure listens to the pod, but she is in hospital now. She's just come out of surgery, actually.
Oh.
Went and visited her yesterday. How's this, Nick? She was on a first date,
Okay, cute.
and having drinks at a bar near her house, going back to her house with the guy, and as she gets out of the Uber, she steps up, she kind of lands on her foot in a weird way, and breaks it.
Stationary Uber.
Sorry?
Stationary. Like, it wasn't like
Yeah.
a run and jump as the
No,
car kept moving.
Well, I hope not. No, she was getting out they were going to her house, and
Broke a foot.
and then went back inside. Obviously, didn't know she did. Apparently, she didn't. She said she didn't scream or cry or anything. She was like, I just feel like I twisted my ankle.
Oh.
And then, a few hours later, she was like, oh, the pain's increasing.
Getting up, yeah.
Guy took her to the hospital.
Yeah.
Apparently, she's broken it in a couple of places. So great first aid. This guy, he stayed up with her until 6 a.m. at the hospital. He's been going back and visiting her flowers. Seems like an amazing dude for
What a
first
catch.
aid.
And I mean, that's one of the classics. If you can injure yourself when you're with someone, then they're like stuck with you. Like, that's a great dating 101 move. And she's executed it flawlessly.
Brilliantly, and, faked it,
Fake that, blood and all of the x-rays. There's all of these Reddits out there where you can just download an x-ray file that you need and you just like flash it to someone. And they're like, oh yeah, look, that's a broken foot.
It's expensive to get all the hospital stuff in it.
Yeah, but you do it in Australia where it's a lot better. Like, you wouldn't pull this kind of move in America.
No.
That's a pretty big investment. But Medicare, I mean, they're basically there to let you fake x-rays.
They're all paid actors.
They're all paid actors.
So I went and visited her yesterday, just before she went to surgery, and it was...
So it's bad enough that they need to, like, put a plate in or something? Put pins in?
Oh, yes. Yep, she's going to get a rod for the rest of her life in her shin thing.
Wow, 2 stars
so
on
I went and
Uber.
visited yesterday. Haven't been to a hospital in a long time, and I forgot how much I hate hospitals.
Oh, interesting. Fill me in.
Awful. The smell, first of all.
The chemical
of
smell
the hospital is rubbish.
Was this I was about to say, was this the RA, but that doesn't make any sense. Where were you in Melbourne? Which hospital?
It was St. Vincent's Hospital. So it's the main, I think it's the main.
Boy.
I'm not actually sure.
Yeah.
So went there, and she's not in private room, so she's in a room with other people there. There's like 6 other beds.
Yeah.
But she lucked out, and she got like one of the corner rooms, so she's not smack bang in the middle, but she's got a nice view and everything. But just even being there for 45 minutes, just like the coughing, the spluttering, someone was eating a bag of crisps, and it was like I could hear, and it was like at one point two people were eating crisps at the same time, and it was like in harmony somehow, and it was just disgusting. And I started to feel like I was going to throw up.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen the latest data on this, but I'm pretty sure that a significant proportion of COVID infections these days come through hospitals because all the sick people end up there. And these days, there's not really mask mandates or anything, even for the nurses and doctors there. And that, frankly, to me, that's crazy because whenever I go to my GP and he's not wearing a mask, I'm like, dude, you're the person everyone comes to. Like, I would have thought at this point, just for self-preservation, you'd be like, wearing a mask. But yeah, like the number of people that leave the hospital having picked up an infection because everyone's sick is crazy. And not just COVID. I'm talking about like drug-resistant bacteria and like all of these other issues that they have with cleanliness and hygiene in these old buildings, which aren't designed with like HEPA filters and ventilation, where you've got like reused linens and all these kind of things. People just get all of these like infections and stuff. I understand the apprehension.
It's just there's nothing good about hospital. Like there's no like, people hate 2 things, hospitals and airports. But at least with airports, there's an excitement in the air. You can going somewhere, or seeing someone, seeing loved ones returning, right?
Yeah.
Hospitals, they've got nothing going for them.
I'll push back on that. There is one good time to be in a hospital, and that's during childbirth. That's the time that a hospital is a happy place. But you're right. 98% of the time you're there, it's because something bad has happened. It's not a fun vibe. And, full respect to the nurses, the doctors, all the medical staff out there. Like, amazing job. I don't want that job. That's just...
Well, that's what I was thinking. I was like, who could work here? Like, I know that Okay, you go.
My friend Chloe, Sean's wife, pediatric oncology nurse, kids with cancer, doing, what do you call it, like chemotherapy to children, 8-year-olds, some of them who will not recover, radiation therapy, kids there just in the worst health that you could possibly be in. Imagine just that job. And not only is there the emotional weight of it, not only is there the grim burden that I suppose you have to just put aside when you're doing your job because it is to help the kids, but then you're you're a nurse, which means you're not paid very well. You're doing shift work. You might be there overnight. So you're there from midnight to 8 a.m. or some shit. I cannot begin to understand how people have the capacity for that.
And not only that, just seeing blood and
oh god, don't
stuff.
even the stomach for it. Yeah, no.
I mean, yeah. Well, shout out to the nurses and doctors and stuff. But
shall we grab some pans and bang them together like we used to do back in the front line of the pandemic era?
Oh, is that why everyone was doing that? I was doing that for a completely different reason.
You're just like, help me!
Oh, we're all doing this? Great.
I just like
everyone's
making
out
noises.
Of time. Anyway, Elle, I hope you get a speedy recovery.
So how long will she be laid up for?
I'm not sure. I think she might be out today. I don't know. It's today, Sunday.
Well, this is the big question, though. Second date?
I would say so. They've been texting the whole time.
That's cute. What
It's
a
very
story
cute.
to tell the grandkids.
That's what I'm saying. It's a great story. All right. So on to more important issues. So I've been thinking a little bit about passion versus stability in careers, Nick.
Yeah.
And I'll preface this with a little anecdote and get your take on it.
Please.
So as you know, I've been on the side of my main job. I've been doing this film thing, right? Writing a score for a short film, which is paid, and it's good. It's taken it's been an intense month trying to get this to a point where the director is happy with it, and he's in Portugal and doesn't speak English as his first language, so there's a language barrier there, and he doesn't also speak music, so there's two. So it's been a long
process,
intense process, but we finally finished it, and my parents are aware.
And may I say, you did a terrific job.
Thank you, man. So my parents are aware of this, and I've been talking about it with Ben, and my sister, and even my dad to some degree. And they just haven't said anything, right? And it's not like they would, but in the family chat, Ben's been really supportive and stuff, and posting things about it in our family chat and stuff, and as you know, my dad's a musician himself, so
He's been known to have opinions about our Christmas compositions.
Exactly. But, the other day, Ben posted this thing that, reposted this thing that the director put up on Instagram about, working with me, blah, blah, blah. And just nothing, right?
Gosh.
And it was very odd because it's been brought up a few times, and I want to fight this impulse to seek validation from my parents, and I'm kind of questioning why do I even need this? Well, who cares? To them, it's just this weird. They don't get it, right? They don't get, they just think it's a bit weird. And
is that truly it? I mean, I'll let you tell the story, but do you think they don't get it? I mean, your dad's a music teacher. Does he not have that creative spark? Surely he's played in bands and things.
This is the thing. I don't know. I don't know. And I think it's bothered me a little bit, because I don't understand why. Even just saying, well done. It's like zero, nothing. And then, so Ben and I were joking that there was crickets on the thing that Ben posted. I'm purposefully not posting about this in the family chat because I'm I'm worried that about what I'm gonna get back or not get back.
Sure, you're self-conscious about it a little.
Yes, but I am like proud of it, and it was a big thing for me to like get paid to do music on
Yeah,
the side of my job.
be a composer. Yeah.
Yeah, and anyway. So and then after that, after Ben posted that thing, I posted. We joked about how no one said anything,
Tumbleweeds,
and then
yeah.
I later that day I've got a parsley plant bush in my backyard that's just going nuts, Nick. It's going crazy.
Crazy.
I've got
How big are we
parsley
talking?
it's maybe 2 by 2 meters, but it's high. And parsley
Parsley.
can be expensive. Coles and Woolworths sell it in those little
Don't
tiny
get me
punnets.
started. Yeah.
I will not.
I mean, parsley, a very liberal spreader as well. Like if you just leave it, it'll get anywhere. I have parsley growing in a pot in my courtyard, and then there was a season where the seeds sort of spread, and now it's in every nook and cranny that could possibly be. It's
Right.
on the fence. It's alongside the driveway. It's gone bonkers.
That sounds like what's happened here.
Yeah.
Well, if you're in the Melbourne metropolitan area, you want some parsley.
Melbourne
hit me up.
metropolitan area.
Is that it?
Yeah,
I don't
no,
know.
I liked your pronunciation.
So I posted a photo of this parsley bush in the family chat, saying, "Oh, how's it crazy is this?" Everyone comments, "Wow!" My parents, I kid you not, go, "Wow, that's awesome! Well done, Michael." And I'm
Well
like,
done,
"What
Michael.
is that?" And so I was just like, oh, I'm like, okay, wow, okay, I'm just gonna have to let this go. But my question to you is, do you do you seek validation from your parents? In your creative endeavors as well. Like, do you find that you seek it? Do your parents offer it up to you?
First of all, let me say, is this what it's like for you every week? Just like having someone else drive the show? It's so nice. You just get to like lay back and enjoy a topic of conversation as it all just gets handled by someone else. God, could get used to this. Second, the validation thing is real, and I think it comes with any, or at least with most creative people or creative expression, right? Because ultimately what I think...
Well, I'm saying specifically about validation from your folks.
Yeah. And I will address that in a second, but let me say that I think that's a natural impulse.
Yeah.
Because it's coming from a place where you are putting some of your self into your work, right?
Yes.
Like a lot of jobs typically don't really ask for you to put you into it. They ask for you to do a thing, or they ask for you to provide something or use your intelligence perhaps, but not necessarily to embody like a little bit of your soul in what you're doing, right?
Yeah.
Whereas a creative expression, whether that's painting or dancing or whatever, is you putting you out into the world. And so I think it's natural with something like that, when it's come from a personal place, that you then feel vulnerable about it, and what you want is affirmation that it was worthy, or that you're worthy from it. And right. I think it's only natural then for you to seek that from people that you value, right? Whose opinion matters to you, who you look up to, who knows you very well. Those are the places you turn to for the validation. When it comes to my parents, I've been very lucky because they have been supportive in the work that I've done with the TV side of things. And I suppose, like even our silly Christmas songs and stuff, like my dad, who does listen to the podcast, as you know,
he does.
He
messages me about them.
Yeah, he'll post comments and things about it, which is always, like I said, very nice, very validating. So I 100% relate to it. There is not, I think when it comes, for me, the person that I actually look to more for validation, who I sometimes wish would give more, is KC.
Me.
Well, no, I assume you're in the bag every time. But he is the
Okay.
one where like I have to work to get feedback on something. Like he sort of innately does not have the kind of brain that gets invested in like something that I'm doing. So if I've had a day at work
Right.
where I'm
Yeah.
like, I'm at the moment I'm working on a video game and I've got 20 cutscenes I need to write, and they're all sort of these intricate little 2 or 3 page character pieces between a couple of leads, and I'll be like, oh, this one's about the dissolution of a relationship, or this one's about the happy memories that they had here, this sort of thing, and I'm treating each of them like this little kind of chamber piece, and sometimes that's really hard, like some days, whatever your art is, you're just staring at a blank page or staring at a keyboard and unable to like, as in a musical keyboard, unable to find the thing that works, right? And you're bashing
Yeah.
your head against the wall. And I'll, at the end of the day, like Casey will get home from work and, I'll ask how his day is. And what I look for him is to say, and how's the writing go? Did you manage to crack that scene or whatever? Or did you work out a solution to that problem, And ultimately, the other end of the process, when I have a finished thing and I'm showing it to him, I want to be like, this is the thing I was working at. And, look
Yeah.
how cool I think it is. And like, I hope you think it is too. And that's not always there, like from his sort of thing. I don't
Yeah.
think he understands that side of my job very much.
Yeah.
So I 100% relate to the like that urge to have that thing understood, right? Because you feel like if the art is appreciated or understood, then in a way you're understood a little better, right?
That's a great point. Yeah, and I think that there's support, and there's been supportive, and then there's understanding it. And as you were saying that, I'm like, Lauren has been incredibly supportive. With even when we were traveling and I was working on the Christmas song,
Yeah.
an obsessive amount, there's she's very supportive, and with this film she's been asking how it's going and stuff. Do I think that she understands like the musicality of things, or the different synths that I'm using or whatever? No, but I mean the support is there, and
It's
I
valuable.
think that's
Yeah.
all you can offer. I think with KC, he's got like an engineering brain. Like I totally understand that, what you were saying about don't it's almost like, don't you want to know like the struggle that I'm going through with this art? But
Yeah.
I guess for people who aren't artists in that way, and I'm not saying that Lauren isn't at all, because she is very creative,
Yeah.
but do you think it's like if I think about her, like am I as curious about her job? Or I'm probably not, but in my head I am. I do kind of like almost expect more curiosity from someone else about like artistic endeavors or projects.
I think that's interesting because I am interested, for instance, in what KC does, civil engineering, something I have no practical understanding of, but which
Yeah.
I'm interested in. But the thing
Yeah.
for him is he doesn't really like being a civil engineer. He took a job that he's good at, that he has the skills at, but it was like a career move. He took a job that wasn't his passion because that was a life choice he made to try and get himself into the position where he can own a house or spend the time doing the things on the weekends that he wants to do, rather than the job be the thing. Whereas I think for me, I'm in a position where I've been lucky enough that the job I do is also like a hobby that I enjoy.
Yeah.
So that's why I think there's a difference in passion level there as well, where I'm like,
Right.
I'm getting to do the fun thing and I have these like interesting challenges or problems. Let me talk about my work day. And when he gets home, he's like, I just had to do, numbers again and it was fine,
He's like, I was at work, you were at work, we're
Yeah.
both at work, let's not talk about work.
Yeah. And also the like he might get home, and this has definitely happened. And this, I'm prefacing this by saying that I am very aware of how lucky I am. in terms of being able to do a job that I like, in terms of being able to do it from home, having the flexibility to fit a very nice work-life balance and all that kind of thing. But there are days when it's tough still, right? Where you have a problem, you have a deadline, and you need a solution, but it's not coming to you. And that can be really frustrating. And so there have been times when he's come home from work and I'm like lying on the couch staring at the ceiling. And I'm just trying to think my way through a problem, right? Like, what is the emotional thing I need to do here? What is the tightrope I need to walk here? What is the solution in terms of a fresh idea or something that doesn't feel trite or derivative or repetitive? And sometimes I just need to like lie on the ground and stare at the ceiling because I have to focus and have to try and think on a thing. And what does that look like when Casey gets home from work? Looks like I'm just lying on the couch.
Yes.
Just come home.
Yeah.
It's like 5:30 in the afternoon. I'm just like lying
dick in
there,
hand.
just doing
It's
absolutely nothing, jerking off. Yeah.
Yeah.
Metaphorically.
Yeah, there's. I want to come back to that. And I guess coming back to the validation thing or whatever. I think the added layer to me is that my dad is musical. He's a music teacher. He's been in bands. He still plays and stuff. The lack of interest or curiosity there, like, is it's strange and maybe a little hurtful. I don't know. I could go to therapy and talk about it, or I could just do it on the podcast.
I mean, it's basically the same, isn't it? And it's a lot cheaper.
So I find it peculiar, but it's also not. I had dinner with my auntie Leslie. Lunch with my dinner or lunch.
Yeah,
gives a fuck, right?
Please get this right. Was it dinner or was it lunch?
And Leslie's she's essentially a language and religion teacher. She's picked up guitar a little bit. She likes to sing. She wouldn't call herself a musician, but it's a hobby for her. It's something that she's trying to get good at on the side.
Yeah.
And she was saying she's doing this Ukrainian performance that she's practiced with a group, and they dress up in traditional Ukrainian clothes and they sing as a choir and they do some dances and stuff, and then they perform. Right? She did a performance a couple of months ago, and she's doing another one in August that I'm going to go down to Adelaide to see.
That's awesome.
And just for added context here, my grandma was a singer, right? She was a singer and an actress in Ukraine. So we have a musical family, but really my dad is the only one that's pursued it as a career. But my grandma, the matriarch of our family, is a singer, and she still sings, Christmas or whatever. So talking to Leslie about her performance and stuff that she's been practicing for the last few months, and she said that she was feeling a little bit. Leslie's 70 years old now, and she said that she was really proud of what she was doing, and she's like, okay, well, she was driving my grandma Bubcha home one day, and she was like, I wasn't going to tell Bubcha about it, but I'm going to, and I felt like a little child. I just want mummy to see this thing, and she's 70 years old, and she's still wanting her mum to see this thing, and so she showed her a video of the performance, and Bubcha was silent throughout the whole video, and then the video ended, and Leslie said, well, what do you think? And Bubcha said, that's not singing.
Ugh.
And Leslie was like, I was just reduced to just like this little girl who was like, just, mommy, please pay attention. Look at this thing that I did. Look at this thing that I made. By the way, I hadn't told Leslie any of this stuff that was going on.
Yeah.
And I was just like, wow, like this is almost generational.
Yeah.
And I remember my dad, when
how
he was
old
saying,
is Bubcha? Like 90s.
Bubcha's like 90. Yeah. And I remember Dad telling me, when I was younger, that when Dad started playing in bands, like rock bands, his dad never came to see a performance of his. Never, it was never valued.
Yeah.
by his parents, because his parents, being immigrants, prized education and security.
Yeah.
As the most, and which makes a lot of sense. But I couldn't help but go back to that in my head and think, well, this is, I mean, you're aware of this thing that I'm doing, but you can't bring yourself to say anything about it. Yeah, possibly because it's not like, I don't know, technically, there's not a lot of, complex jazz chords in there or whatever. It's like, it's more ambient,
it's music
droney
for
stuff.
the purpose of scoring a film rather than for
atmosphere.
having its own, melodic
And so I
thrust to it. Yeah, melodic thrust.
Right, and I do think that kind of is an element of this. It's like, well, this is not real. This is just sounds. And I do know for a fact that my dad, would rather hear a complex chord progression played on like a stock MIDI sounding keyboard rather than like an interesting sound from a Fender Rhodes with a it's more in the mathematics of music rather than the texture or the tone or the sound. So I do think that's an element of it. So I'm trying to remind myself of that, but then I can't help but think, like, even if, and it's the same thing with the Christmas songs, even if my kid was, not doing something, even if my kid started, being a gangster rap, artist.
Yeah.
And I'm so removed from that world and it musically and technically or whatever.
Yeah. Not my go-to. Yeah.
Not something I would enjoy. I would be like, I think it's really cool that you're doing that.
Yeah. That you found something that does move you or inspire you and energized by and working at any sort of hobby, right? Whatever it is.
You would want to encourage the creative effort.
Yeah.
And I think that may be a luxurious position to be in, because even my parents being second generation, I don't know what that is.
Yeah,
well, their parents both were immigrants.
Yeah, first.
Maybe
I think when they say first generation, they mean the first one that was born here. So I think if your parents are immigrants, then you are first generation. But I might be wrong.
But they have these values in their family that comes from a very rational place. Like both of my parents grew up very poor, and they've done very well for themselves in teaching and investing in real estate, whatever. And they have always, valued and encouraged security, job security, and education above everything else. Like, even to the point where, my sister is probably the best singer I've literally ever met.
She's incredible. Yeah.
She was very much encouraged to pursue law over singing, which I find, I mean, to me that doesn't, I don't understand that, but I can understand it from my parents' perspective.
Yeah.
But to me, it's like, if creativity or a talent like singing, like Laura has, to me, that's like so special that that's more important. But I get it. I get that they have this mentality, but like, I don't know. I know that I'm just talking in, branches here, but
yeah, I mean, that it's very similar, I think, to KC, because KC's first generation immigrant, at least by the way we just defined it. His parents came over. He grew up here from age 5, full Kiwi citizen. But it's the exact same thing. Like, the emphasis is on stability, on education, on ascendance, effectively, like taking the opportunity that they work to, acquire, and making sure that you maximize it. And that's, I think, what, like, he did a jazz degree. He studied jazz piano.
I didn't.
Right?
Did I know that? Wow.
Probably. It hasn't been brought up ages ago. Yeah, he did a music engineering thing, or started a music engineering degree. He has a full jazz degree. But he is working as a civil engineer, right? And I think it's part of it is from that position of, like, the benefits that come from good education, from financial stability, getting onto the property market. These are kind of things that are long-term goals for the family and long-term goals that will pay off for you and your kids, right? So I think part of it for him as well is like, well, the rational choice was for me to go do this, even if it's not the thing that I'm passionate about, which again just makes me appreciate the position that I'm in, where I have had this opportunity and have had some, small success in it as well, to be able to keep doing it.
Absolutely. I guess, yeah, this, I know I will stop ranting at one point. Eventually I will stop ranting at you.
Just
Dr.
maybe when the
Shadell.
laptop runs out of battery.
But the thing was like, yeah, the thing is like, I went through that choice in my mind, however realistic it was, who knows. But there was a point where I was like, okay, music's going to be my thing. I'm going to make music. And
I've
then I
released
had this
2
other thing.
albums. I've, blah, blah, blah.
And I had those two things. And eventually, the easier choice and probably the most sensible choice was, to pursue, a job in, media and stuff. And that's what I'm doing.
Yeah.
But I didn't want to let that part of myself go. And I think, this podcast is even a part of that. I like holding on to some creativity. I'm very afraid still of being someone who just let their creativity go and fall away.
Yeah.
But I haven't done that yet. I know I'm 35. But it hasn't gone away yet. And, even just getting paid to do a film score on the side is okay. That makes me feel really good about myself, right?
Yeah. I think if you have that urge, though, I don't think that even if you have to shelve it for a while, if you have that in you, I don't think it ever really just disappears. And I think there's nothing to say that, people in their 50s that, change a career or whatever, find themselves with more time and can pick up the guitar again. People do this all the time. My dad learning to play piano at 70, 71. Yeah. If you have something there, I think it'll always be there. It's just a question of where you have to, allocate time and resources and energy and things to it. So
yeah, but I mean, like I want to take it seriously. I want to make serious kind of things.
Yeah.
So yeah. Anyway, I guess the first point here is that I just wonder if shaking this need to get approval or validation from your parents will ever go away. And because it doesn't really make any sense. Like if they die, I've heard people talk about they still try and do things to make impress their parents, but they're dead.
Yeah,
it doesn't make any sense. I mean, from an evolutionary point of view, I guess it makes sense, but yeah, just
it's an embedded culture in the sense of like your ethos, what motivates you, the way that you perceive the world and the way that you interact with it is shaped by those people from age 0, right? Like
it's hardwired.
It seems impossible and in a weird way sort of futile. Not futile, what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, it is futile, but like naive to think that you would be able to unwind some of that attachment, right? Assuming that you had a that sort of style of parenting, it's going to be in you, right?
Yeah. I guess, yeah, when in other examples of life, not necessarily when I'm seeking validation, but when, I feel maybe a little bit rejected or someone's not seeing me properly, my impulse is to, I guess it's a defense mechanism. It's to, in my head, and then consequently after that, in real life and behavior, convince myself that they're dumb, or convince myself that they just don't have any taste or anything.
It's an ego thing, right? Not in like the most negative narcissistic sense, but all of us have an ego, like some sense of self, and when things threaten to puncture it, then the mental retaliation is dismissing that threat as wrong for some sort of reason, right? Like that's a fairly normal psychological protection, right? Otherwise we'd go around the world and just be like a blubbering mess by 9:15 in the morning every day.
Yeah, well, I am but for different reasons.
Sure.
Um,
I mean,
so
can I,
yeah,
in terms of validation for me, I think one of the most narcissistic things that I do, and I'll take your, you can give me a judgment on this, but as someone who writes for video games, I will regularly jump on the platform Twitch. Do you know Twitch, the video game streaming
stream. Yeah,
platform where you can, watch other people play video games? And I'll just check in and I'll watch some people playing the Sherlock games. And, there are cutscenes that I've written or like the climax of the game or that sort of thing. And I'll just watch people react to it, which for me is when you're working in a vacuum, when you're working in an office, I'm not on stage, I'm not in front of an audience. You can watch someone react to your work in real time, unfiltered. They don't know that the person who did the thing is watching them watch it.
yeah,
And so I'll just see how it plays. And it's narcissistic, but it's also the same thing. It's seeking validation to be like, oh yeah, that thing I wrote, it did work. Or why did they react that way? What's the, what could I keep in mind next time I'm working, next time I'm doing these characters, next time I'm in a video game sense, what could I improve? What could I change? It's feedback.
yeah. No, I totally get. I don't even think that's narcissistic. That's how narcissistic I am. I'm like, that's regular. You
That just
should
sounds
do
like a
that.
normal person. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I totally get. I mean, I will not often, but every now and then I'll just go back and listen to one of the Brokers albums on Spotify, and I'm like, this is good, and I'll just be saying that in my head. I'm like, that's I love what they did there.
Well, you got to be proud of the things you create, right? And
Yeah.
that's probably the healthy answer to what you're talking about, right? You're floating this question of, should I try and let go of the need for external validation? Well, what else is there then but internal validation? And if you can't listen to a thing you've done and be proud of having made it, for all the flaws you might see in it or for all the things you might change if you did it again today, if you can't look back at a thing that you did and be like, I'm really glad that I made that. And certainly
Yeah.
that's the way I think that we all feel like every year going back to a Christmas track. You go back to the years before and you're like, maybe that was a little hard, or that's a bit long, or whatever. But
Well, that's the
like,
thing.
I'm
To have-
still incredibly proud that I did it.
Yes, I mean, to have internal validation that you trust,
Yeah.
you need to have internal criticism, which, I've got a lot of that too.
Yeah.
But yeah, it balances out. Anyway, but the back end of this was I've been listening to Scott Galloway, who's I think it's an economics professor at Stanford. You've probably seen him. He's the new guy for me, right?
Okay.
He's the new.
You've said it
he's-
all. We know the archetype. The new guy for Michael. Stepping into the shoes of, I think, formerly
Yeah.
Ricky Gervais,
Yeah,
then Joe Rogan for a bit. There was also Stupid
don't
Face.
say there wasn't Joe Rogan. Fuck
No,
off.
okay,
it was Tom York. Anyway, my endless search
No,
for
but
father
who's
figures.
the meat eating guy who went and had surgery in Russia? Who's
Jordan Peterson?
Jordan Peterson, thank you.
Well, Scott Galloway is the Jordan Peterson we wanted. Okay,
Yeah, sure.
He's unproblematic. He does talk about the crisis for men, but it's more along the lines of we need to do more about men's mental health, blah blah blah.
Sure.
But he's got this book that I've just started reading, and by reading I mean listening to. Can you say reading if you're listening to an audiobook?
If we didn't have this conversation on a pod recently, I've definitely had it somewhere else very recently, and I think I'm the line of that's not reading, which is not to say that you're not consuming the thing, but I think for me, the act of reading has to be putting your eyes across words and internalizing that into your head voice rather than have someone speak it at you.
I agree, but reading does
I think the phrase for
sound
me is
better.
you listen to an audiobook, which is totally fine and a great thing that people can enjoy. And I love that audiobooks are an option for people out there now, particularly when often you get authors reading their own works to you and you get to hear their actual voice say the things.
Yeah.
But to me, that isn't reading.
But reading is just the process of getting the information from a page into your brain, which is essentially the same as listening to it.
I don't think that it is, but I think that that's an arguable point.
All right. Well, I was reading The Algebra of Wealth by Scott Galloway,
Yeah.
and he kind of opens with this premise that kind of goes against the social, I don't know, ethos, zeitgeist, whatever, that the best thing that you can do is not follow your passion but follow your talent. And hopefully that's in an industry where there's a 90% job vacancy
Security,
rate or something like that. And he said, I know that sounds like something that you shouldn't say, but it's actually the most economical and most the smartest decision that someone can make. And he said that usually when people are telling you to follow your passions, they are people that have already made it. They're already successful. That's luxury advice to give. So yeah, I've been thinking a lot about that lately. And he says, for a lot of people, maybe it doesn't start off as your passion, but if you become successful enough, and he gives the example of a landscaper that he's getting to renovate his kitchen, and he needs this. There's this one guy in LA that knows like marble stone better than anyone, and he's come from Mexico, and he came with nothing and built himself up, and now he's this empire. And he's talking to this guy about this particular stone that he's using in his kitchen, and this guy is talking with such passion, and he was asking about it. How did you just love landscaping and this? And he was like, no, I mean, I've become passionate about it because it's my business, and because my family depends on the business, and it's given my family this life. And I think that's an interesting point. We've talked a lot in the past about, having your priorities change with life, as life goes on. And in your 20s, you do have a lot of gusto and zeal and passion, and you're romantic about things. And you think, people in their 40s, 50s, 60s who don't have, creative jobs or interesting jobs to you, then you think that's, kind of boring, or they sold out. I mean, I definitely had these thoughts. But I guess as you get older, like, you don't factor into that equation that, if you do have kids, that will be your sole, keeping them alive, keeping them healthy, getting them educated will become your passion.
Yeah. Or at least your motivation.
Exactly. And I guess, yeah, I am kind of looking forward to having a child, or just having another person in my life that will stop me from thinking about myself as the number one priority. It's not a great reason to have a kid. I want to be less selfish, so I'm going to have a child. But I'm curious about this, the shift that a lot of people say happens when you have a child, that for the first time in your life, you care about someone else more than yourself.
Yeah. It's interesting that the story you told, and I'm just backstepping a little bit here. The story you told about the marble guy was off the back of you describing Galloway's suggestion as follow the thing that you're good at, not that you're passionate about. And yet what he actually described with the marble guy was not someone who was innately marble great, right? Who had this magic with stone, but was someone who had found a reason to justify a business because the thing he was passionate about was providing for his family, or that's where the motivation came from. So is that not slightly different? Like he didn't describe that this guy who was this marble worker had that ability and was leaning into it.
I'm assuming that he did have some ability in this.
But the
area.
advice that you related was follow the thing that you're good at, right? That story, was that connected to that, or is that sort of two different things?
No, well, I mean, obviously this landscape, I guess the point was no one's really passionate about marble, but this guy has, found himself in a position where he is quite good at,
expert at it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess that was the point.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, it's interesting because, as I've described recently, the art scene here has been so difficult in terms of getting TV work and new projects over the line because everything's contracting. And so there have been moments of consideration, and even KC said, like, would you consider going back and studying again, or like, is there a pivot that you could do or that you'd be interested in doing to get to a position of more financial stability? Because I'm living this life where it's freelance work and where it's irregular and everything. And at a certain point, if you want things like houses and kids at some point, then how realistic that is really uncertain. And so part of that recently, and not in a hugely serious way, has been me starting to ask myself the question of like, well, what am I good at, or what am I interested in? Because I think I am spoiled. I know that I'm spoiled to be working in a field that I am pretty sure I'm good at. And to then have to look at something else can't help but feel like a backstep, right? To end up in a job where either you're less good at it or less passionate about it, right?
Yeah.
And so I have been asking myself the question of like, okay, well, if I was looking at other things, what is it that I'm skilled at enough and could live with myself doing in a way that facilitated perhaps a little bit more of a consistency in my life.
Yeah.
And those are, interesting questions. Like, what would you say that you are best at in terms of career or work or that sort of thing?
The thing that I am best at is making music, and not necessarily playing music, but the thing that comes most naturally to me, and the thing that I can just go into a time vortex with because I just love it, and
Yeah.
I love researching about it and all the nitpicky details, because that to me suggests that, if I'm not a detail oriented guy, but I will spend hours on YouTube working out how to EQ a kick drum to a bass, to a bass sub bass.
Yeah.
I would literally spend, like I did
Yeah.
the other day, 5 hours just listening to guys talking about this. I think that is the thing that I'm best at.
Yeah. Do you in a office environment, when people hire you for a job, what is
Yeah.
the skill that you bring to your current role that puts you above others who potentially might have been applying for that same job, for instance? Like, are you is it efficiency with your work? Is it, managing multiple things at once? Is it
Oh, okay. Yeah,
communication?
Well, what I say to that question is that I think I weirdly handle stress very well. Like I get when shit hits the fan, I get almost calmer.
Yeah.
So that's one thing that I say. And I think the other thing is that, I'm very flexible and adaptable and will just go with the flow, which is also can be a negative. But I think in my industry that I work in, I think it's prized.
Well, you've got the job. Congratulations. You'll be starting Monday.
Oh, how much do I get paid?
We don't have a salary yet.
Okay.
But there'll be some protracted contract negotiations. We mostly do it in perks and things. So like dental and, we'll cover your phone plan, that sort of stuff.
Great. As I said, very adaptable and
Yeah.
flexible. So yeah, do whatever you want to me.
I think for me, the thing that I could say generally as like skill set is I am a good communicator, I think. And secondly, I'm a good editor. I editor in multiple ways. I edit in terms of text on screen, text on a page, editor in terms of video and audio, I hope, for the podcast stuff as well. But I have a brain, I think, which is equipped to look at the product in front of me, whatever form that is, and identify what isn't working, what is or isn't superfluous, what needs to be refined, and to go through and adjust that to make the final product better.
That's a great one. Like good instincts.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But
that's a great one.
then the question is, well, if I'm to follow Galloway's advice and pursue a career in a direction of something that I'm good at, I do think I'm good at writing, but
Yeah.
secondarily, editing. What does that mean? Maybe I'd need to go off and learn how to be like an avid editor or something like that, and look at the other side of things there. Because that still has a degree of creativity attached in a way that I think I could live with that sort of career.
Oh yeah, I mean, like I think anything, even if you sidestepped into, you know, emphasizing one of the other skills that you use in order to create a TV show or
Yeah,
dialogue in a game or whatever, no matter what, it's going to be creative because the whole thing is a creative circle and it's just a branch
yeah,
of that.
yeah.
It'd be really funny if when you said, I think I'm really good at editing it, you cut it out just before you finished that.
That's a good idea.
No, I think whatever you do, because of your skill set, because now you're 10 years, probably more in
Yeah,
to your field. Yeah, and you have a quite an impressive resume. You've written a fucking show that's on television.
yeah,
That it's going to be creative no matter what you do, and people would be very impressed by having a show on your resume.
yeah. And maybe that's where some of the need for validation comes from. But just to bring this full circle, it's like when I meet new people in whatever context, and like you're at a party, you're at a work do or something like that, and oh, Nick, meet Linda, blah blah blah. Oh, what do you do? I'm a writer. The ego boost that I get when their response is, oh, that's cool. Oh, for what? What sort of writer? Oh, I make TV shows. Oh, no way.
No,
Like,
it's very cool.
it's love it, right? Like that's the thing. And so then if you put something out and you're like, oh, I was working all day and I really got, I was struggling with this problem, and then I worked out what needs to happen is this character needs to fucking snap, and he's been so pent up all, for the last, hour or two of this thing, and finally we've reached a point which will push him over the edge and he can like let loose, which is the thing we haven't seen happen for this character, and the conflict that's going to come from that is going to be so like cathartic and like exciting. And I'm reaching this point in the story, and if I don't get anything from the other person that I'm telling it to, then I think that where that mismatch of like passion and interest and enthusiasm hits someone who's not into it, that's when you feel like, but validate me because I've just told you how good I am.
Yes, yes.
Don't you understand?
Yeah. By the way, you can get that dopamine hit very cheaply as well. When I was overseas and meeting people that I knew I was only going to have a very quick conversation with and never see again, I was trying that out. I'd say, oh yeah, I'm an actor, I'm a musician, and you get the same.
Oh, just lie.
You get the response. It's like,
I mean, to be honest, if you say you're an actor and you're not, you're acting. So you're telling the truth.
Yeah, exactly. You can't lie.
You can't lie. It's impossible to lie.
But just to tie a bow on this, I feel like I am going to set my kid up for failure because we tend to. I don't know if this is just my theory. I'm sure it's not, but I guess we try to overcorrect for the things that we felt
Previous
were deficient
give to
in
us.
in our upbringing. And I know for a fact that I'm going to encourage creativity and creative effort and talent, probably more than education and things that my parents valued. And possibly will set my kid up for failure. Maybe they will just be a struggling musician, and I'll just be, oh, you're amazing, you're awesome, like keep going, and then they'll get addicted to fucking heroin, and I'll be like, oh, that's cool though, that's very bohemian.
But they'll never be searching for the validation. So pick your poison. What would you want for them? They will never know. They never wonder whether their dad didn't back them. So,
But I would
take
want
your
them
pick.
to want my validation though as well.
Oh, okay. Well, now
Yeah.
we're in a problem.
Oh boy. Oh well. Well,
Good
thanks for
chat.
letting me.
Nice topic.
Basically just therapize myself.
Well, there is something. I'm not going to riff on this now, but isn't there sort of a description of the two kinds of relationships or personality types based on parenting style, like the attachment style parenting or like the independent style thing? I forget the exact terminology, but there's some sort of train of thought, and I don't know how scientific it is. But
Yeah.
depending on whether, for instance, you were like swaddled when you cried as a baby, or
Yes.
always had a parent there to turn up for you, versus someone who had to learn to not rely on that, and how that shapes your subsequent adulthood and relationship styles.
Yes, relationships. Yeah, I think secure, avoidant.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
something else.
I forget the
Anyway.
terminology. Maybe that's something to pick up on another podcast. But it's an interesting idea that the way that you're reared then has those long-term dependencies sort of baked into you, for sure.
Well, right. I mean this seriously. Write in if you've got examples or stories about seeking validation from your own parents. I'd like to hear them.
Or if you have opinions on how to prioritize what you're passionate about and what you're good at, or work career stuff. Yeah.
Or if you'd just like to give me and Nick some validation,
if you
tell
want
us
to
we're
tell
great.
us this is your favorite podcast, you can also do that.
Dad.
If you've enjoyed this, thank you so much. That really does mean a lot to us, as previously discussed. If you want to find more episodes that'll tickle that funny bone and tickle that brainstem, then just scroll down in your feed and listen to some of the past episodes. They're all pretty good. I'm just saying that objectively. You can get in touch with us as previously requested. You can send emails to deepford@gmail.com. You can find us on socials at deepford on Facebook, on Instagram. You can jump on Spotify, listen to podcasts there, give us the old 5-star. Do the same at Apple Podcasts if that's your thing. And our songs and other creations are up on Spotify too. You just look for the Deep Fort music page, and you can listen to our Christmas album or our Decade in the Deep celebration. And if you're seeking the validation from people who have been yet to supply it to you, then let me say, hey, great job. I fucking loved that. You should keep going at it because you're good at it and you're also attractive. So, yeah, I'm proud of you, son. Or, and here's an alternative, I'm proud of you, girl. One for each. More of the cold brew.
Oh yeah. Number 2.
Gosh.
How was the outro?
I fumbled it a few times, but I'll fix it in post.
Okay. Well, you're great at editing.
That's what I said in the moment as I failed.
You know what? I'm noticing that because I went to go pee, the speed at which urine leaves my can I say penis on here?
I don't know. We'll have to check with the parents.
The speed of my urine is getting a lot slower. It's taking a sweet time.
Oh God, maybe you should go get that prostate checked.
Well, I did actually go to the doctor on Friday.
Oh, congratulations!
Which is an event.
Yeah.
I went to see the GP about my sleep.
Yeah.
Because I was talking about it on the last one.
Yeah. Are
By
you
the way-
still dry juning?
Still dry juning. I have the last few nights I've slept well, but there was a couple of last week it was so bad. I was getting like 2 to 3 hours sleep per night, and it's getting bad. And so I was like, I'm just going to go see a GP, and I did do that on Friday, and they said it sounds kind of bad. She's like I'm not a sleep specialist, a psychologist, but it could be that your circadian rhythm is off. It could be anxiety or whatever. So I'm going to a sleep psychologist.
Ooh.
And probably going to do a sleep
Study.
like a study clinic thing.
Yeah.
Where you can do it at home, and you put like a helmet on. She said, and they monitor your brainwaves and things like that. So yeah, that'll be
That's fun.
good podder at least.
Yeah, that's good potter fodder.
But also on the back of the last one, when I was complaining about my sleep, it's quite interesting because when people listen to this and I complain about my sleep, I get more messages from people with suggestions or whatever. And yeah, some people are even sending me some
Oh, little
sleep
goodies.
drugs. Yeah.
Gosh.
So appreciate that. So
I
keep
mean,
sending them sleep drugs my
do
way.
you do you think that the fact that you were working so hard on this like creative project and things, and probably drinking a fair dunk of caffeine, and possibly impacting that a little bit?
It is very possible. I mean, I do. I mean, now it's 12:30 and I'm still drinking coffee, but I mean, I do tend to. I am worried about sleep, so I have been cutting out caffeine earlier in the day and
Yeah.
doing all those things. But it is possible. You know, Lauren's been telling me to not do music past 8 p.m. because she thinks that I get too like
Wound
wired and
out. Yeah.
jazzed, and
Yeah.
it's probably very
That's a fair
true.
point. Yeah.
Um,
I mean,
I don't
generally,
know.
it depends on your brain cycles, but even doing sort of any intensive work at that time of night, for most people, is probably going to take a little bit of time to wind down from. I don't
Yeah,
remember if
but I
you
mean,
remember or if you had this experience in the cinema era, but when you do the midnight finishes and you're literally working from 6 p.m. till midnight was your shift. I wouldn't go to
yeah,
bed till 2:30 probably most of those nights, because you
yeah,
get home and you eat some food, you want to watch some TV, you fart around a little bit, and you can't just go
yeah,
straight from the job into bed at like 12:30. It just doesn't work.
yeah, yeah. No, I get. I mean, yeah, there's all these things that I could help mitigate it, but I mean, at the end of the day, I have struggled with insomnia like my whole life, but I don't know. I'll keep you posted.
Well, that's actually a very good segue into how I thought we might end this podcast, Michael. It's been a little while, but maybe, given our discussion of sleep, given the fact that we know many of you out there listening like to pop us on at the end of the night and just lull off into the land of Nod, maybe it's time to bring back a little bit of the old blanket fort.
Yeah.
So, if you're feeling a little bit like it's time to call it a day, then get under the covers and let us whisk you away to a softer place with a little bit of a bedtime story. So sit back, relax, and we'll see you in the next episode. You open your eyes and take in your surroundings. You are standing in the middle of a vast desert.
A gentle breeze whiffs through your hair. A little bit of sand. In the distance, you notice a tree. Just one tree.
Slowly, you start to plod towards that distant tree. To your left, a dune of red, shimmering sand towers above you. To your right, dunes stretch out into the distance.
As you head towards towards the tree. An eagle soars above. You think, are there eagles here? You continue forward.
With every step, your Asics running shoes get a little grainier as sand filters through the opening and into your socks. Damn.
You think it must be 45 degrees out here, but this fucking sand is really annoying. So you take off your shoes and your socks and you raw dog it on the dunes. The sand is scorching hot. So you do what you need to do and you enter into a gallop.
The tree in the distance seems no closer than when you started, yet your feet grow redder and hotter with every step. Holding your Asics running shoes in your left hand, you regret spending $219 on inappropriate desert footwear. As you enter the second minute of sprinting, you start to wonder if the tree was even real.
Perhaps it was a mirage. As you get closer, you notice the shape of what you thought was a tree start to change shape. It is not a tree at all. It's a
big snake. The whistling noise you thought was wind was actually the rattling of a large rattlesnake in the distance, and you have been sprinting straight at it.
But even though you have a understandable fear of snakes, you seem to feel a warmth and comfort from this giant green snake, almost inviting you to come and sit with it. So you head towards it against your best judgment and sit next to the snake with your Asics running shoes in the shade. snake says,
"Are you sure you're not extremely dehydrated? Is it possible this is just in your mind?" You turn and address the large serpent, and you reply, "I don't think so. I think you're just a giant talking desert snake." You extend a hand to introduce yourself. "Good afternoon, rattlesnake. My name is..."
Noah. My name is Noah.
The rattlesnake immediately bites you on the outstretched hand.
Initially, you thought the snake was leaning in for a kiss. But that doesn't even matter now, because your hand is bleeding. Blood. Blood.
You cannot tell if it's the heat or the effects of the fast-moving venom, but you start to feel woozy. And as your head gently hits the soft, warm sand, you look at those beautiful Essex running shoes. $219 well spent. And you die with no regrets.
No regrets. Because the snake was Essex.
Use our promo code DEEPFORD at checkout and get 16% off trainers.